Alrighty, last episode we discussed the feelings of being on a calorie deficit, what to expect, how it's going to feel, dealing with sometimes the hard parts of it, the emotional, the physical challenges, because it's uncomfortable. And uncomfortable is not necessarily bad. So if you are going on to a calorie deficit or you are in the midst of a diet phase, cut phase, calorie deficit, go back and listen to that one. Now today we're going to discuss coming out of a calorie deficit. Now you might be saying, Mike, there yet, I'm not at the weight that I want to be. I'm not looking how I want to look. And that's okay. Because you cannot and should not stay at a calorie deficit for a long, extended period of time. And this is a conversation I have with people a lot of times. It's like, hey, when was the last time you weren't trying to lose weight? And it's scary, especially if you do have weight that you want to lose. It's a normal thought. But just like being on a deficit has to be strategic and somewhat calculated, if you want to optimize it, coming out of a deficit has to be arguably even more strategic and calculated, because this is where a lot of people regain a lot of their weight, if not all of it, or they stay stuck in the deficit mode because they're afraid to eat more. So if you've been in a solid calorie deficit, you've lost some weight, how do you know it's time to take a break? If fat loss has truly stalled for 2 to 4 weeks. Now, 4 weeks is a long time to just be pushing and trying and not seeing results. And I get it. It's mentally frustrating. But that's where we have these talks about being in a plateau. And have you truly been at a plateau, or have you gotten a little bit lax with stuff? Like, there's a lot of things that happen here very normally. And this is not a finger pointing game, calling anyone out, but it's a very normal thing when on a calorie deficit you start to just get a little more lenient with stuff. If your energy is really taking a hit and your workouts feel flat, hunger is constantly high, if you're like dreaming about food and just it's starting to consume you, that's not healthy. We don't want to be there. You're getting sloppy on weekends. You're having more off days. Like you're just kind of burnt out on being on a diet. And again, that's a normal thing. Or if you want a timeline, if you've been doing it for 8 to 16 weeks, and depending on how much fat you have to lose, the longer you can be on a deficit. So if you're someone who's just trying to be like, hey, I just got like 10 pounds, I just want to lean out, dice up a little bit, it should be a shorter period of time. But if you're someone who has significant amounts of weight to lose, your body can actually tolerate a longer duration in a deficit. So the biggest reframe here is coming out of a deficit is not quitting. It's actually part of the plan. It's part of the strategic plan. And I always use these analogies of, you got to think of athletes, right? They have their preseason, their in-season, their postseason, their diets change, their training changes, their focus changes. That's the same thing with coming out of a deficit. So now how do you go about this? There's 2 main ways to do it. Number 1, jump straight to maintenance. This is best for, I'd say, 50% of people. Busy adults who don't want to overcomplicate things, but have the mental fortitude to deal with a little bit of a scale jump. So what it looks like is you add in, let's say, 300, 500 calories right away. And this usually comes from carbs and fats, because when we're in a deficit, that's where we're cutting. We're never going to cut from protein. This works great because, look, your metabolism is not broken. Your body does adapt quickly. The thing is you cannot jump back up. Let's say you had your maintenance all figured out at 20 pounds heavier, okay? You're not going to jump back up to that number. Smaller people need less food. And that's just a fact. That's a inconvenient truth, right? Is if you've lost 20 pounds, you don't need as much food to maintain your new frame, your new body weight. And that can take a little bit getting used to. Now, it's not a ton calories left, especially if you're staying active, you're getting a ton of steps, you're working out, you're eating high quality food, healthy, nutrient dense food. It shouldn't feel like, oh my God, I'm still starving. But it's not going to be as much food as you were eating before. Otherwise, you're going to go past maintenance and go into a surplus and start gaining again. Option 2 is a gradual increase. This is also known as a reverse diet. Now, this is better for very lean individuals, physique competitors, people who struggle mentally with increasing food or with maybe seeing the scale go up aggressively at first. This looks like adding 50 calories a week, 100 calories a week maybe. It's very conservative. It's slow. It's tedious. It's not always necessary. The biggest thing that I look for as a dietitian and a coach when I'm working with a client going on a diet break, what is their mental approach with the scale? What is their relationship with the scale? If they're someone who really fixates on the scale and gets really stressed out and lets that stress and emotion dictate the rest of their day, then I'm going to lean more towards a reverse diet if I can think they can tough it out for a little bit longer. There's other strategies we can do too, where it's like, hey, you know what? Let's keep accurately logging and tracking stuff, but in these next 2 weeks, let's take a break from the scale. And I tell them, I don't hide anything on people. It's like, hey, because we're adding in more calories, especially bringing carbs up, your weight is going to bump up because more carbs equals more glycogen, which is the stored form of carbohydrates, and with carbs comes water weight. This is oftentimes when people diet down severely, they end up looking what we call flat, and then they have carbs and their muscles kind of fill back out and they actually look more full and more defined. So you've got to be prepared for this. And if you know this is going to happen, maybe the scale jumping up 3-4 pounds, if you can handle that, just jump right back to maintenance. Don't suffer through a reverse diet. Again, different approaches, different people. It's not as simple as a 10-minute video to figure out which one's best for you, but those are the two big options. So what should you expect? And this is where people freak out. Just said glycogen and water, more food in your system will cause the scale to go up. This is not fat gain. You should feel better in your workouts. You should feel like supercharged. You should stop thinking about food so much. You stop dreaming about food. Your sleep might improve. If your sleep was starting to take a hit at the end of a deficit, that's another red flag. You are going to feel like you are on super drugs at your workout. Like, you should feel great. And you should use that energy to push yourself in those workouts, because maybe towards the end of a deficit, you're like going through the motions. You weren't hitting any PRs. You were eating or hitting numbers that were lower than you normally hit. Push it hard. So your scale's going to go up due to water weight, food weight, not fat gain, 2 to 5 pounds after being on deficit. And you may say, like, Mike, I just worked so hard to lose 20, and you're saying I'm going to gain back a fourth of that? Yes, but it's water weight. You'll be okay. If we can lose 20, gain 5 right away, but then stay at 15 down for a period of time, if you still have weight to lose, then we jump back into a deficit. When do we do that? Well, staying at maintenance, again, there's no exact number here. I'm a big fan of, if you're someone who has a lot of weight to lose, we don't need to stay at maintenance as long. So let's say you are on a 8-week deficit. We need to stay at maintenance for at least half that. So 4 weeks, if not 8 weeks. And you may be asking yourself, well then, okay, then what's the point? Like, if we're working together, what are we even working on here if we're staying at maintenance? Well, we can still tweak goals. We can still discuss things like, hey, like, how you doing mentally with this? You know, let's push hard in the workouts. Let's strategically come up with ways where we can incorporate foods that maybe were harder to incorporate when we're on a deficit, so we're not feeling like we're as deprived. There's so many other things with nutrition coaching and counseling that are beyond calories and macros and all this stuff. So there's a lot of great work that can be done when someone's at maintenance. Um, Stay at maintenance longer if you've dieted for a very long time. Okay. And again, if you still have weight to lose, this can be hard because people get impatient, but maximize that time. Push hard in the gym. Maybe gain some muscle mass. So then when you lose more fat, you look the way you want to look. It's a thing I hear often from clients. It's like, hey, I just want to look like I work out. And I get that. Stay at maintenance longer if you're mentally burnt out. If you're just like, dude, I was off playing more than I was on playing. Okay, just stay at maintenance, but don't get sloppy with it, because that's where people do actually undo their progress. Um, you got more weight to lose later, jump back in when you're ready. So spend at least as much time maintaining as you did dieting, if not longer, unless you have a significant amount of weight to lose. Like, when I say significant, I'm talking 100 pounds plus. So even if you've got 50 pounds to lose, you want a 1-to-1 ratio, if not longer. And again, it's okay. You know, if you plan this out over a whole year, and let's say you have 50 pounds to lose, and you have diet phases, you have maintenance phases, and it takes you 2 years total, but you stick with it and you maintain it for the rest of your life, that's amazing. Too many people get caught up in the headlines of like, woman loses 100 pounds in 12 weeks. Where is she now? Where's her weight at now? Where's her health at now? Okay, so don't settle for the quick fix, the quick, super fast, like front page headline making results. Like, play the long game. I'm telling you, like, your body will have positive changes throughout the entire process. And the secret is you'll never be 100% happy. Like, I know that sounds terrible to say, but people can always find things that they want to tweak, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying you're going to be depressed and sad, but it's like, okay, now maybe I got down to my weight, and now maybe I want to gain some muscle. So then that's a whole different conversation, because now we got to talk about being in a slight calorie surplus and being okay with seeing the scale go up a little bit. Talk about mentally challenging. But it's all part of just physiology. It's how your body changes. So, you know, most people mess up coming out of a deficit, though, by staying in that deficit too long and then rebounding too hard. You know, going right back to all their old habits. Like, what do you expect is going to happen? If you go right back to what got you to where you were dissatisfied in the first place, you're probably going to be dissatisfied again. So leaving you with this, fat loss doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens in phases. It happens in steps. It happens in chunks. And if you do it right, I don't want to say it's effortless, because you got to work. You've got to be patient. You've got to have restraint over certain things, but it doesn't need to be suffering. So the people who keep the weight off are the ones who learn how to truly maintain, not just lose. So keep that in mind. And if you need help with this, you know where to go.